Hey y'all, welcome back. We are Pack Rats MTG. I'm Patrick here with Cam.
What's up, guys?
And this is going to be another episode of Phylosophyrexia, episode 2 of Phylosophyrexia, where we kind of philosophize. We pick a topic inside of the Magic the Gathering domain and we discuss it kind of off the dome. It's not very structured, so you're just going to be joining our informal conversation here. First things first, if you like the stuff that we do, go ahead and give this video a like and make sure you subscribe to our channel. And if at any time you're raging at your keyboard about something we've said, an analysis we've made, or you really agree with us and we mentioned one of your favorite cards, a golden oldie or something like that, whatever, just drop us a comment. We'd love to hear what you guys think and want to interact with you as much as possible and get this community going. So with that, our topic tonight for Phylosophyrexia is favorite flyers, our favorite flying creatures. If that isn't a broad enough topic, I don't know what is. So we've got a massive field to walk around in. So Cam, why don't you start us off with one of your favorite flyers? What comes to mind?
Well, before I answer that question, I just want to throw out there that flying as a mechanic, so this is what we're going to do tonight, guys, and I'm just going to derail it a bit, and then we're going to come back to that.
Let's do it.
Why would we choose flying as a mechanic for our second Phylosophyrexia? For one, flying is an evasive mechanic, right? So in the game of Magic, a foundational piece to winning board states is being able to evade your opponents, being able to get around a defense, right? Because we need to establish a board state, and we also need to be able to penetrate the opponent's board state. So flying is the ageist-old means of doing so, and we can go all the way back to the first good flyers like Flying Men, right? 1 blue for a 1/1 flyer, super vanilla, but super strong. And I think Script Sprites was green for a 1/1 flyer. There were cards like that that really shaped some of the game because of their ability to penetrate the opponent's board state. So, guys, that is why we chose this in part, because these mechanics are so essential to the game. And, of course, over the years, we've played cards, as you all have, with flying that are just seam-ripping studs, just fantastic cards, and we'd love to talk about it. So I get to open up with my first flyer that I'm going to kind of bring to the table. I'm going to bring an interesting one for you, Patrick. I'm going to bring.
You better not take mine. I have a feeling you're going to take mine.
I'm bringing Ornithopter. Ornithopter is one of my favorite flyers. Now, I'm sure everybody remembers the days of Ornithopter cranial plating, which is from the dark days of Magic that were not written in the history book. Or they were, and it was written in a tome to be preserved to never repeat that same mistake. But Ornithopter was also cool back in the day with stuff like Rancor. You could still, Ornithopter had some really nice punch to it. Or in like Dreadnought type decks where you needed to sacrifice dudes.
Sure.
So Ornithopter was a cool little flyer that you could do a lot with, and it was free.
Right. All right. Are you ready? You're playing this deck right now in one of your commander decks, and I'm not. But Hypnotic Spectre is maybe my favorite flyer of all time. I mean,
interesting.
And so, a colorless and 2 black for a 2/2 flyer, and when it deals combat damage to an opponent, they discard a card at random. I mean, if it weren't for that at random, I would probably not even remember the card. But the fact that it's at random is just such a powerful thing, and I've always loved Hippie. I think it's a great card. Well, I mean, so what do you think? I know you're using it right now, but you honestly have more history with it than I do.
No, man, I've been using him since the beginning of my days for sure. He's a fantastic flyer. Like you said, the fact that you can randomly strip a card and the fact that he has evasion is very, very good. He's an excellent flyer. Now, I'm going to take a kind of a page out of your book. I'm going to steal a card that you've played in the past, and I'm going to bring up Wind Reaver. Because I've watched you sail to victory with that card. It's funny, nobody really played Wind Reaver. It was kind of like the Azorius Morphling bastard stepchild. Right. Really never got any time in the sun. But your first big kind of break into the F&M scene when you were a young lad was on a Grand Arbiter Augustine, Wind Reaver, Azorius Control back when the revival combo was going. And I remember
Enduring Renewal and Wild Cancer.
Renewal. Thank you. Yeah. And so you actually you constructed that deck on your own. It was the first deck that you built yourself competitively,
right.
And you brought the heat, man, on the backs of Wind Reavers. Such a good
absolutely.
card.
I mean, Wind Reavers, Grand Arbiter, Mana Leak, Court Husser, Disenchant. I mean, just classic, good removal that now costs you one less, and then Wind Reaver, you're able to pump him, switch his power and toughness, smack him for a healthy amount of damage, then bounce him. It was insane. And I mean, I really made my first chunk in the competitive scene, with that deck. So I love Wind Reaver. I'm happy you brought that up.
Yeah, really cool card.
I'll bring us up. We could probably reminisce all day, but maybe to a more recent flyer that a lot of people like is Wingmate Rock. Remember?
Sure.
And I probably couldn't even tell you exactly what it does now, but it's like a 3/4 bird for 5 mana, and it's something like if you attack, when it comes into play, you make a token. It's I remember at the top of Standard, it was in a lot of those Obzon decks that were winning Standard tournaments. So do you have any experience with Wingmate Rock? Or
I don't have any experience, but I've read about it. Patrick and I have been playing for over 20 years, guys, and we have had stints of times where we've been every Friday Night Magic for several months, and then we just kind of fade away and play more casually and go back and forth.
And then we found Commander, right? We found Commander, and that let us interact again at the tempo that we were able to. So we really do owe a lot to the format of Commander for us kind of being revigorated in constantly playing. So
I completely agree. Yeah, it's been a format that's allowed us to continue playing while still being, professionals and pursuing career type heights and accomplishments while still getting to maintain our community feel for it. It's so awesome. Now, on the lines of Wingmate Rock, Wingmate Rock? Wingmate Rock. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I remember when I had reading about it, I was like, yeah, it's a solid card, but it was reminiscent of Broodmate Dragon,
Oh, sure. Yeah,
and that was a big card back in the day, and I think you rocked it back in Cruel Control.
5-color control, you got packed some Broodmates. Yeah.
You got a couple 4/4 flyers out of the deal for, I think, 5 mana. It was not a huge investment.
Broodmate is 6 mana for a 4/4, and he puts in a 4/4 token as well.
Oh, yeah. So when you think about it, 6 mana for an 8/8 total power toughness, evasive, excellent card.
Yeah.
But along those lines, you played that competitively. Way back in the day, I played Gaia Skyfolk competitively. Most people are just like, what? It's a blue and a green.
The 2 mana 2/2?
It and Quirion Dryad had a wonderful love affair, dude. Quirion Dryad held down the ground forces while you played your cheap cantrips and counters, and Gaia Skyfolk womped in for 2 every turn. He's consistent. But along those lines, I'm sorry, I keep taking turns, but they just keep coming up. Trigon Predator, right?
I was thinking about Trigon.
He's a monster. He's a house, even to this day, especially in formats like Commander. 2/3 flyer for 3, and he gets to pick off artifacts every turn. That is such a powerful effect. And I remember back in Ravnica, I was on a real budget kick, and I just was not interested in investing in really heavy-hitting cards back when it was the Kamigawa block and the Ravnica block. I ended up playing a Simic deck that packed 4 Trigon Predators because everybody's running Jit. And it worked. It worked really well at the local F&M tournaments. But for some reason, when I went to that same regionals, I just couldn't hit my draws, and I ended up like 4 and 5 or something. But it was such, for a budget strategy, it really did the job because everybody was so focused on their artifact and their equipment potential. And it shut that down really effectively.
Yeah. Let's see. I was thinking about Bogarden Hellkite. Playing a big scary dragon on your main phase is cool enough, but being able to play it at instant speed and have removal on it as well is that much cooler. I'm sure as when you hear that word, as I do, you think of like when Dragonstorm was the standard deck, where you would Giga Drouse them at the end of their turn and then storm off, and that I don't think you or I liked that deck particularly, but Garden Hellkite as a card is a really cool card, right? I mean that's a great flyer, and you don't have to tutor up all 4 of them in the same turn for it to be cool.
No, you don't. He's really awesome. I mean, he gives you a really large arc lightning on a 5/5.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so
even if you take Dragonstorm out of the picture in a control shell that likes Drago, and I know you've never been a fan of the Izzet control concepts like the counterburn idea, but the older you go, the further back in Magic you go, counterburn was better and better. I'm not going to say it was the best deck at any point in time, but it was at least competitive. You know, the older you go, and stuff like Garden Hellkite would play really well with that strategy, because you could sit on a hand of counters and just wipe the board. You know, instant speed, such a good card. Now we brought this up earlier. I'm going to have to bring up Mystic Enforcer, because even though without Threshold he's not much, with Threshold he's a 4/4 flyer, and I think I'm a 6/6 flyer, and I think pro black. He's a monstrous beater, and of course nowadays would not be considered super premium or special, but back in the Odyssey block he really he put in some good work, and so I feel like he's got to be an honorable mention there for sure.
And that makes me think of when I played Beach House, Angel of Despair. That's a great flyer.
Golden oldie from the past. Another angel that comes to mind, since we're kind of on that thread, is Exalted Angel. So before Baneslayer existed, there was this morphing angel, and he was, I mean, really, like when I think back to the extended format at the time, Isochron, Scepter, Orm's Chant was a huge control strategy. It was monstrous. And Scepter Chant was so dominant. And they always ran, I mean, some decks, if it was a real aggro-heavy format, they would run a couple copies of Exalted in the main, but for the most part, you always knew they were coming out of the board, at the very least. And they were the $20 or $30, control support at the time. I mean, now they're I'm guessing they're like $1, because you've got Baneslayer and probably half dozen other cards that
you have Archangel Avacyn.
Yeah.
Can you believe that's even a card?
No, I mean, right. So again, bringing up crazy flyers, Archangel Avacyn, right? Which I don't think her red-white counterpart got enough love. When she was first spoiled, she spoiled at like $25, and she quickly dumped in value. But I thought she had a really cool effect. She was a flipping board wipe, and still gave you a beater. Anytime you get a board wipe on a stick, like a Massacre Worm or something, it's a very strong effect, and you can kind of mold your strategy around that to make sure that you end up on top out of the wipe. But that makes me think of a Chroma too. Do you remember when a Chroma was a domineering force?
Oh yeah.
She was I mean, that, like, for the time, I remember looking at that card like, how many abilities can one creature have? You know, like flying, vigilance, pro this, pro that, first strike, like exile the opponent when it attacks. Like, you just thought she had everything. And now, I mean, dude, a Chroma was so domineering at the time that she was like the reanimator target of choice. Back in extended. Like 6/6 for 9 mana. It's so awful. But by today's standards, she was so good, dude.
But when you say that, it also makes me think of, how in Commander, maybe not very, but a pretty popular strategy now in the Commander is those types of cards that, like, you choose a thing in your yard and you choose an attribute from a creature in your yard, and this creature or all your creatures get that attribute or something. It'd be cool to do a deck that's based off of that, like having access to one of those guys that lets you impose an attribute on your army and just kind of, throw those Achroma type things in the yard. That might be kind of cool.
It might be cool. And actually, one of the Commander 2020 decks is kind of based on that. One of the commanders
the Abzan guy.
The Abzan guy. Yeah. Of course, Abzan, and then maybe throw an Entomb in there or Buried Alive, and you snag your Chroma from the yard. But I mean, you have a Chroma's Monument and cards like it now, where on an artifact, all your creatures get all of that stuff.
Right.
And I think it's 7 mana. It's a pretty hefty toll, but in Commander, 7 mana is just standard. It's run of the mill. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You see 7 mana card. Now, I'm not talking about CEDH, where all of the decks are basically larger Type 1 decks, just without the power 9.
We don't really mess around with the competitive stuff, right?
No,
we're on the higher end of casual.
Higher end of casual, right. So people might call us like 85%ers. We don't sit at the CDH tables where, every deck is a combo deck and we're looking at turn 3 combos. But, when you're playing higher end casual and you've got, a play group that you consistently show up to and you want to impress them, you're gonna put a little bit in, and stuff like your Chroma's Monument or bomb creatures like her. Now, the counterpart to the Angels, of course, are the demons. Right? Like, you can't leave demons out of the equation if we're going to be talking about flyers.
That's true.
And, dude, Gristlebrand earned himself a banhammer. You got to bring him up. I mean,
I know it.
I have a hard time wondering sometimes when Wizards puts a card together when they go, drawing 7 on one card, that's not a bad idea, right? Like, yeah, right, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it. And he's got lifelink, so it's not
I think that's for another Phylosophyrexia where we kind of stick it to Wizards and talk about the good things, maybe the not so good things. But
look what you guys did with Gristlebrand.
To bring us back to the happy side, but I'll stay on the side of kind of black flyers. Stinkweed Imp is one that you and I both have a ton of experience with, and we both love.
100%, man. Fills the yard for some targets to reanimate or to flashback or for threshold, any number of other strategies. Death Touch that is repeatable. I think that's the big thing with Stinkweed Imp, right? Like, he's a flyer, so he stops your big evaders. He's got Death Touch, so he's going to remove them, and he's coming back every turn. That's so frustrating. And he's a common. Like, any player has access to this card.
Yep.
That's it's a wonderful thing. I completely agree. And I would probably say that my final choice for the evening, just while we're rattling things off, is Vexing Sphinx. Never saw any love. It was from like Cold Snap or something. It's 1 and 2 blue for a 4/4. Its cumulative upkeep cost was discard card. But when he died, you drew cards equal to the number of age counters on it. And of course, a card like that, it becomes a diminishing value after the second cumulative upkeep, just because of the way the math works. But if you play him, swing him in, put the age counter and don't pay it, now you're actually a card up. You're breaking even technically, considering you're ditching the Vexing Sphinx. But again, I thought it was a wonderful card, man, and you can play some cool tricks in a deck that likes madness or that likes to put cards in the yard. Get an early beater on the board.
Yeah,
cool card. Anyways, do you have one final pick, Patrick?
I have one. Oh man, that's tough.
Seal the deal for us. Bring us home.
Seriously, golly, final pick on the flyer. I'm gonna go. I don't know why. This is by no means like the most powerful flyer, but you know how just some of those derpy ones show up in your mind's eye sometimes. And do you remember Plume Veil?
Yeah, like the wall. It was like a 4/4 flying wall for 3.
Yeah, but he had flash.
Yeah, right. No, he was a good card, dude.
Dude, that's pretty solid. 3 mana, 4/4 defender, flying, flash.
And that is no. You're calling it derpy. I think that was excellent. In fact, in that standard, if I remember correctly, that was a staple.
It was a great card, and I love that card. I mean, but I'm, again, since we're always stuck in commander mode, I'm not so sure how powerful of a card that would be. But it really is a cool card.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, let's dissect that for just a second before we wrap up. A 3 mana, 4/4 flash. In general, let's just leave it at that. A lot of the times it's going to play out to be a removal spell, a one-sided removal spell, which means it's probably going to end up being a 2-for-1. Because in order for them to get rid of it, they're going to need to expend another card, or at least an ability. So you're going to get a card out of it and some tempo.
Yeah, I mean, I think most often it's gonna chunk. Like it'll remove and then turn around to be a chumper.
Maybe.
But again, I mean, that's
really
you're
right
up on tempo. You're
frequency,
absolutely up on tempo. Mm-hmm.
But in those colors especially, it's a blue-white, isn't it? It's the slash cards for Azorius. In those colors, a fairly confident hard removal spell that's nice to have around. And then to be able to sit behind a chump, like you said, clogging up the board. I don't know, man. I kind of wonder if that's worth throwing in a deck and playing with.
I mean, it should probably go in my Arcades deck. It's just not there right now.
Yeah. 4/4 flyer for 3.
I think it's probably not there because of like Slaughter the Strong, wanting to use Slaughter the Strong. Maybe.
That makes sense.
That's what it is.
That does make sense. And you don't care about blocking in that deck, ever.
No, nope.
You just want to go like this. Turn them sideways.
Yep.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Plume Veil for the final flyer. I think it was great, Patrick. I think that was an excellent way to close things up.
Yeah,
guys,
I'm expecting being eviscerated in the comments here.
I hope you are. Please. So, guys, with that, we're Pack Rats MTG. This is Phylosophyrexia. It's a segment where we're just going to talk about things related to Magic. We're picking a topic. We're talking off the cuff for the most part. Some of these we'll do some research for you, give you guys some lists. But we just want to create a conversation, and we'd love to hear back from you guys. We want to be eviscerated on some of our choices. Tell us what are some of your favorite flyers. Remember to like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We just want to make sure that we're contributing to a tighter knit and more supported Magic community that we know so well, we love so much. And with that, guys, have an amazing rest of your night. We'll catch you next time on whichever next segment you guys are able to watch. Take it easy.